During the ancient times, it was the prerogative of the Benin warriors to remove the head of any conquered monarch and bring it to Benin, and the event will be recorded with artifacts in the kingdom. Hello everyone, my name is Nekme Obasogie. I'm sitting here in my studio in Toronto, Canada. You can see from the background of the studio, I have some Benin artworks. Cultural competency is very important. I'm here to do analysis of the history of Benin artifacts, the significance of these artifacts to the ancient Benin Kingdom. I wrote a book lately, and the book is titled Great Benin, the Art Casa of Post-Colonial Culture. The book is based on the relationship between the Europeans and Benin Kingdom right from the late 15th century to the 20th century, when Oba Akenzua II ascended the throne of his forefathers. You know, I cannot write about the relationship between the Europeans and Benin Kingdom without highlighting the history of Benin artifacts, how these artifacts shaped the relationship between the Europeans and Benin Kingdom, especially during the British punitive expedition of 1897, when the recalcitrant British expeditionary officers looted Benin artifacts from the Oba Palace. According to history, prior to the advent of the Europeans to the shores of West Africa, the Benin people have been practicing the tradition of using artifacts to record events and immortalize personalities in the kingdom. The first wave of the Europeans to Benin Kingdom commenced in the late 15th century. The Portuguese were the first Europeans that visited Benin. The Europeans did not introduce artifacts to the Benin people. However, they brought some materials from Europe that helped to advance the production of artifacts in the kingdom, with Oba Esige introducing the guilds. Anyway, before I will go ahead and do the analysis of some important events and personalities that were recorded with artifacts in the kingdom, I'm going to play this video of Oba Akenzua II when a British journalist interviewed him in the 60s. The Oba also elaborates on the importance, the significance of these artifacts to the ancient Benin Kingdom, that they were records of events in the kingdom. Just take a look.
Your Highness, many of us know about the bronzes that have come from your kingdom. They are very famous. Can you tell me why they are so important to the kingdom of Benin?
Well, because they were record of events. When British troops came here in 1897, they carried them away.
What kind of events, Your Highness, were represented in those plaques?
Any event of record,
yes,
such as you are here now. If it were in the old days, you would be recorded in the same way as we had recorded the Queen of England about, I think, 56 or so.
That is the last one that Your Highness has commissioned.
Yeah, that's right.
The plaques, about 1,000 of them, were found by the punitive expedition stacked in a storeroom. Apparently they had been taken down some 200 years before. Once they had covered the pillars of the palace, and together they give a detailed picture of the Benin court at the height of its glory and power.
When the British troops looted Benin artifacts from the Oba Palace during the British punitive expedition of 1897, a part of the Benin history was taken away from the kingdom. There is no history saying that the Obas of Benin were producing artifacts to decorate the palace. Those artifacts that were looted by the British troops were records of events in the kingdom. Anyway, before I will do the full analysis, I will play this video. I want you to watch this video critically. This one is a little bit sacred. I will come back and explain the significance of Benin artifacts during the ancient times. Just take a look.
Now, it is not possible to enter this chamber until you knock 3 times.
The most sacred shrines belong to the Oba himself, and I'm taken to see those by one of his sons.
So I'm going to knock at the door 3 times before I open it.
Prince Humphrey Akanzua is a graduate in anthropology from a Nigerian university. He's also a believer both in Christianity and the traditional practices of his people.
This is where we keep our shrine for the departed Oba or the late Obas. Now, this chamber is very important to us. It's always a secret chamber. Here we have a shrine, one for Adolo, and this one here is for my grandfather, Eweka II.
Yes.
This is the traditional setting in the palace where you have the Oba at the middle, surrounded by his chiefs. Now, the model you have here is a bronze cast of my grandfather, Eweka II. Now, you see, we have two chiefs here, the front chief carrying what we call asa. In terms of warfare, these materials are usually used to guide the Oba from attack. Oba was one time a warrior.
Prince Humphrey took the British journalist to a secret chamber inside the palace, very, very sacred. And the chamber is packed with shrines of late Obas of Benin. Beside each shrine, there are some bronze artworks telling the story of the Oba, the life of the Oba. Some of these artifacts carry the image or the picture of the Oba. You can see how these artifacts were significant to the ancient Benin Kingdom. It's very factual from this video. These are some of the artifacts that were looted by the British troops during the war. And we reiterate, when the British troops looted Benin artifacts from the Oba Palace during the British punitive expedition, a part of the Benin history was taken away from the kingdom.
And can anybody have heads like that and tusks?
Yes, only the chiefs. The chiefs, yeah, only the chiefs.
As well as the Oba, chiefs.
As well as chiefs and the Oba as well.
I see. And when was this shrine set up?
This shrine was set up by my father.
Yes. When?
About 1933, when he came to the throne.
Yes.
Yes.
And were all the objects made at that time?
No. Some of the objects were made before that time. Because casting brass is a long process. It is not possible to make a brass cast within a short time.
I see. Then, are there bronzes being made now for the shrine of your father when he should die?
I would regard that question as I can't reveal it because it's a secret within the royal court.
I see.
I wouldn't say my father would die in any case. And I don't want to reveal the secret of the Benin people because
I quite understand.
It will annoy them.
Prince Humphrey made a very important statement in this video. He said he will not reveal the secrets of the Benin Kingdom to the British journalists because it will annoy the Benin people. He didn't say the Oba, but the Benin people. Knowing fully well that in the Benin Kingdom, whenever you offend the Oba of Benin, do not expect the Oba to react. The Benin people will call you to order. If you want trouble, they will give you some piece of cake. Let's look at some other important events that were recorded with artifacts in the kingdom during the ancient times. When Idianiye Sige, the first female warrior in Benin Kingdom, joined her ancestors during the 16th century, Oba Esige, the son of Queen Idia, commissioned the bronze casters to immortalize his mother. That was when the Idia mask was created in the kingdom. Recall, when the British troops looted Benin artifacts from the palace during the war, the Idia mask was among the artifacts that were taken away from the palace. During the 70s, when Nigeria was preparing for Festac, the federal government sent some delegates to the British Museum in London to negotiate the return of Idia mask because they were planning to use the Idia mask as an emblem for the festival. But the British Museum denied them of that artifact. At first, they requested for £2 million in order for the federal government to borrow these artifacts from them. The government was willing to give them the £2 million. However, they still denied them, saying that the artifacts is too old and they don't want the artifacts to travel out of the UK. So, these are some of the artifacts that were looted from the Benin Palace during the war. During the ancient times, there was a tradition in Benin that stipulated that whenever the Benin warriors conquered any monarch, the head of the monarch will be removed and brought to Benin, and the event will be recorded with artifacts in the kingdom. I'm going to play a video of Dr. Isien himself, a renowned Benin historian. Just take a look.
Joined the Benin armies, then made war on Ubuduku, and then slew the Obi of Ubuluku, killed him, and then sent the beheaded head of Ubuluku down to Benin as a trophy, and the head of Ubuluku was made into bronze. Bronze. I think the bronze head of the Enogi of Ubuluku was in the museum in Benin for some time. They call them trophy heads. When the Benin people will make war on a paramount ruler of another kingdom, and they succeeded, they will sort of slay this paramount ruler, bring his head to Benin, and the Igun Street would use brass to sort of commemorate this head of this slain monarch of another town.
During the ancient times, it was the prerogative of the Benin warriors to remove the head of any conquered monarch and bring it to Benin, and the event will be recorded with artifacts in the kingdom. When Ogioboro killed Adesuwa in Oboro Dukedom during the 18th century, the Oba of Benin at that time, Oba Akenbuda, demanded the Benin warriors to remove the head of Ogioboro and bring it to him in Benin. I wrote a short story book based on the history of Adesuwa and Ogioboro, how Adesuwa was killed in Oboro Dukedom. It was a dukedom because they believe that Ogioboro was one of the sons of the Oba of Benin. So Ogioboro, Oboro Dukedom. Today, the Oboro Dukedom is located in Delta State. What Dr. Isien said about Agboidi, when Benin fought war against Ugoniye Koriomo, Agboidi escaped alive in order to circumvent the tradition of removing his head from his neck. Agboidi took a different approach. He decided to drown himself in the river Igbahon before he could be captured.
The Benin army then went again to make war on Agboidi, Ugoniye Koriomo, and of course then he lost the war. Agboidi lost the war. When he saw that he had lost the war, then he and some of his troops, he didn't want the Benin army to catch him, to sort of cut off his head, to bring his head to Benin, to make it into a trophy head. So then he walked to the Ethiop River. The Benin people called the Ethiop River Olokun. So he walked into the Ethiop River, and then he got drowned in the Ethiop River, so that the Benin army will not be able to get his corpse, to sort of sever his head to bring to Benin.
If you have anything to add to this history, you can do that by leaving your comments in the comment section. Thank you all for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye for now.